right, y'all, what's going on? Goofy Rexy here. Hope everybody is doing well. And the Scourge event is done. Yes! Oh, sorry. I didn't mean to be so excited about it, but I am actually pretty excited. The Scourge event is over. It's been a long, 12 days or so that it's been since the event went live. But at the conclusion of the event, this is something that I wanted to do while the event was going on, but I figured it would be better to do it after. I want to talk about the pros and cons of the Scourge event. Now that everything is all done and we're kind of waiting for the leaderboard payouts, I wanted to talk about sort of like the best things about this Scourge event. Since it's the first one that, went out. Kind of what our thoughts are in regards to what the pros were and then also what the cons are. So I'm going to start off with the cons because I do feel as if though I want to end this video on a positive note. So we may start off on a negative note, but I do want to end the video on a positive note. So let's talk about some of the cons. So I was doing this on Twitch here. We kind of went through a list of the pros and the cons, and one of the biggest cons, obviously, of this Scourge event was obviously the leaderboards, right? And this was a concern that a lot of players had right before the event started. Ever since the Stark Armory stockpile event, our concern was about the leaderboards and cheaters in the leaderboards. People were going to be able to hack, people were going to be able to mod in the leaderboards, and unfortunately that came to a head, right? It felt as if though they were ill prepared to be able to take care of that. We saw them being a little bit reactive. Yes, they were starting to delete accounts that were obvious in the top 100 leaderboards, but there was obviously a concern about players who were under the top 100 or lower than the top 100 in the leaderboard. Now, they did come out with a message and a statement saying that they are going to be doing this delayed to not just pay attention to the ones who are in the top 100 in the leaderboards. But one of the issues and concerns, and I can pull up the blog post here. Actually, I should have it somewhere. Never mind. We won't pull it up. But what they said in the blog post was that they were going to take care of ones that were obvious, right? And that's still a concern for us because what about the ones that aren't obvious? Are you going to be able to delete those players who are obviously cheating, who are not obviously cheating? Are you going to be able to take care of those? That's not something that we definitely feel confident that they're going to be doing right now. So for us, that's definitely one of the bigger cons, right? Is the leaderboards. And are you going to be able to get your proper payout for the work that you did, or is somebody who cheated going to be able to get a higher payout than you? That's still definitely a concern for a lot of us. The second con, I would say, is the bugs, right? This event, the very first day that this event went out, there was a bug where players could go in repeatedly and sack teams, and every time that they went in, there would be the next time when they went in, the enemy team would have negative 30% HP, which obviously created an unfair advantage. So if you're doing that after that 24-hour period, so they fixed it within 24 hours, after that 24-hour period, that was if you didn't do that, right, if you didn't do your runs, then if you weren't going in and sacking teams to try to burn the other team's ults, then you weren't getting the advantage of having that negative 30% max HP on the enemy team by being able to do so. So for me, that's definitely a con as well, because unfortunately players are able to take advantage of that. Other players weren't able to take advantage of that. And then we had the Scourge ones, right? So there's the Scourge bug where some of the Scourges that were equipped, you could get the points for those Scourges, but they weren't actually actively working in the game. Now, the fix for that, which really wasn't a fix, it was just more of okay, well, now since it's the cat's out of the bag, we're not going to change it. You can now get those free points and you can apply those Scourges, even though they're not working, you can still get those extra points. So that's, I guess, one thing that was a kind of sort of a fix that was beneficial for the community, that people were able to take advantage of that. But ultimately, again, that was definitely for me a con, because I feel like this event was slightly rushed, right? I think I've said this multiple times now. I feel like the Scourge event was really kind of a rushed event where they didn't really have all the kinks worked out yet before it was released. And they released it essentially kind of making us the QA, right, for them. Once again, where we're testing, we're seeing things that aren't working correctly. And it's rather unfortunate, because I think a lot of this would have been caught and they're just simply done things like check your work. Something like Scourges not working properly is something simple where it's like, just check your work to make sure that it's actually working the way it's supposed to, as opposed to leaving it to us and putting it in our hands for us to then be able to go ahead and test it out. Now, This one is going to end up both on the con and the pro list, but we'll talk about it why. Maybe that's a little controversial, but the length of the event. I think another one of the cons, it was definitely the length of the event. I think a lot of players kind of just got really burnt out after the first couple of days of the Scourge event, and it's felt as if though maybe this event shouldn't have gone on for as long as it did, right? I think 10 days seemed a little bit too much. I think for me personally, I thought a nice little sweet spot would have been 10 days as opposed to it being 7 days as opposed to it being 10 days. I really would have preferred had it been a little bit less time than that, but unfortunately it was a little bit longer. It kind of just made it, I think a lot of players just got burnt out from it, especially with the leaderboards, with the bugs, with all the frustration from that. I think a lot of players just really got burnt out with the event itself being as long as it was and feeling as if though you needed to log in and then do this extra screen time and watching the leaderboards, right? So you're now your top 1,000 this time, and then of course you're logging back. You're log back in 2 days and realize, okay, well, damn it, now I'm top 5,000 or I'm out of the top 1,000 position. So now you got to do another run. So it just created more extra screen time, and I think players probably didn't really like. And that's the reason why the length was a little bit of a con here. Another con, RNG. Some of the nodes you're popping into, like node 5 in particular, was really just all RNG. The other nodes are you can kind of figure it out. You can put some comps together. You can theory craft a little bit. You can make some things work for you there. But really with node 5 in particular, it was going in and making sure and having T'Challa attack Spidey and then making sure, and then you have to have Spidey dodge in order for you to be able to get the right node. And then what happens if Red Guardian resists or Kitty Pryde evades, right? Or she dodges, right? Then you can't land the defense down on her, you can't land the disrupt on her, right? So some of the nodes were just way too RNGs, particularly node 5. Actually, let's just say node 5 was really RNG. Node 10 was kind of manageable, but node 5 was really RNG, and this didn't really feel exactly fun because you had to, I mean, some players were resetting node 5 like 5 times, right? This didn't really feel like a lot of fun. So in my opinion, that's definitely another one, another con as well. Another last con that we're going to talk about, kind of going to group a few things together here. So one is ambiguity. Some of the information that was shared up front about what you needed to do was very light information. It was, okay, you're gonna have 10 nodes, you're gonna need web warriors or dark hunters for node 5 and node 10 at higher difficulties that were at the time were difficulty 6 and above. You were gonna need your web warriors and you were gonna need your dark hunters. But they never shared any information about what else you were going to need. Now, there were some data mines that were out that said that you would need Hero and Global and Cosmic, right? So there was some information that was out, but no direct information from them saying prior to that, hey, you're going to need Hero and Global and Mystic. There was not that information that was shared prior to, and unfortunately that created sort of just like a lot of frustration, I think, for a lot of players, because they kind of had to scramble at the very end, because players who don't have these large big rosters may have not built up Secret Avengers, may have not built up, some of these other teams because maybe they're not doing Doom raids, but and it's unfortunate because now they have to kind of scramble to build their roster, when if this information was shared prior to, then players could have planned out their roster, could have built up things and then been prepared for this event. But then some of the last minute changes I don't think were as favorable. So if you're looking at difficulty 4, difficulty 5, difficulty 5 previously before had no restrictions on web warriors or dark hunters, but now they added it for difficulty 5, which they thought was going to be better because it would give people more points. But I mean, what if you didn't get very good shards on web warriors or dark hunters, whatever, right? So now you have to use them in difficulty 5. You were going to be able to do difficulty 5 before, but now you have to kind of change your game plan. And then also the points, it was incorrect information. They said in difficulty 4 that you were going to be able to get, if you got 425 points by equipping enough Scourges in difficulty 4, that you would be able to get a 3-star Morgan Le Fay unlock. It's not really that easy because you have to essentially equip all of the Scourges in order to be able to get those 425k points. So that was a little unfortunate, but let's shift over to some positives, right? So some of the positives that we talked about here were that the Scourge event was challenging, right? Which brought a little bit more excitement to it. So you could go in, yes, you were kind of somewhat using some cookie cutter teams at times, but there were ways to kind of theory graph to make them some things work for you, right? So if you wanted to go into the first node and use your Shadow Star and your long shot or whatever, like using some different comms to kind of kill a couple characters. Dorky Dad made an amazing video kind of talking about, you know, saving up, building up some cooldowns. There was a lot more challenge to, there was a little bit more challenge to it, which made it a little bit more exciting, brought a little bit more theory crafting to the game, more theory crafting to the game mode, which I think a lot of players kind of appreciated. Like, I actually thought it was a very fun event. The first 2 runs that I did, I had a lot of fun with it and really enjoyed, you know, being able to kind of think differently and basically use my roster that I built up for other content and basically be able to go ahead and challenge some of these nodes. I thought it was actually pretty exciting to be able to do so. Another thing that was pointed out to me was that more players were able to get a legendary on first pass. Not even just that, but there were more players that were free to play that were able to get an unlock for legendary on their first pass as well. This is really kind of unprecedented in a lot of ways, right? Because previously, other legendaries, you have to farm XYZ characters and then build them up to XYZ. So you have to get them to X stars and 5 stars in order to be able to unlock the character, 6 stars for back in the day Phoenix. But this was different, right? It kind of provided a little bit more opportunity for some players who were not going to be able to get a Morgan Le Fay legendary unlock on first pass before. Now they were going to be able to get a legendary unlock. So therefore, for that reason, it's good. So it was more challenging, it was fun, it brought some more excitement, and then also more players were able to get a legendary on that first pass, free to play too. So that felt pretty good. Players also mentioned this is another PvE content mode where you were able to kind of use your roster. We don't really have a lot of really great PvE content right now that we do on a day-by-day basis, and this is not something that we're going to do on a day-by-day basis anyways either, right? But you know, we have raids. I mean, but apart from that, I mean, there's not really anything else that we have that's largely PvE. So this was a nice little PvE content game mode that was fun. Tower is fun at times in its release. Pocket Dimension is fun at times in its release. So this kind of added some more PvE content that kind of added some variety once again, and of course challenge your roster to be able to use kind of like your top teams here. So that made it a little bit more fun. I also like the aspect, and somebody mentioned this as well, that being able to kind of play this as you want, right? So if you were someone that didn't have a lot of time in order to be able to screen time to be able to do a lot of the stuff, you could start, you know, a campaign. You can start a Scourge run one day and do the first 2-3 nodes, and then come back, you know, 2 days after that when you have a little bit more time, and then finish off the next 3 nodes, and then put it down again, and then come back. There was, you know, because there was, and this is the reason why I said that this is going to be kind of a pro and a con, the length of the event, right? It provided you the opportunity to be able to, the 10 days provided you a little bit of opportunity to be able to kind of go at it as you needed to, right? Go at it as you kind of wanted to be able to do it, based on whatever time crunch that you had in your life. It kind of gave you that flexibility. So while some of us wanted the event to end because of just the leaderboard aspect of it, some of us also as well were just like, you know, hey, you know what, it's nice to be able to kind of do a couple nodes, come back to it later, or even this too. Like, let's say that you didn't have some of the characters built up, then because of this 10-day event, you now had an opportunity to kind of invest into some of those characters after watching content, after listen to some other players who've already gone through the nodes, and then be able to kind of now build up your roster accordingly to be able to get through the content. I know somebody mentioned in my Discord that, you know, because of the length of the event, that they were actually able to build up a villains team. So they built up Silver Samurai and Lady Deathstrike, and were able to get a higher score towards the very end of the event. So the length is a pro and a con in a lot of ways when you think about it that way. So definitely got to add that in there. The Scourges, a lot of people mentioned that it added some variety, you know, to be able to kind of pick your difficulty, right? You kind of had an opportunity to pick your difficulty for Dark Dimension, right? The Scourges added a little bit of, you know, it really tested your knowledge of the game and tested your knowledge of characters, and being able to figure out how to create these different comps, and using your ISOs efficiently and effectively, you know, switching up some ISOs. I know there were some players who switched up Web Warriors and put Hero on them, although Note file was just abysmal. but being able to kind of switch up some ISOs here and make it work for you. I know I had Skirmisher on Spider-Man before, and then I switched over to Raider because I felt like that was better for my raid content. But then back into the Scourge event, I switched back OG Spider-Man back to Skirmisher because I felt like that was actually better for the Scourge event. So really, in a lot of ways, the Scourge has added a little bit of variety to it and kind of help you to kind of tailor your run a little bit and provide, once again, that challenge and more excitement of it. And the last thing I wanted to talk about is really kind of you guys, right? The community, amazing community, Marvel Strike Force. I've always felt that way about the Marvel Strike Force community. And honestly, I mentioned while we were preparing for this video here was just the community help and how, we were really kind of there for each other throughout the entirety of the process. We would share information about what was working for us, what was not working. A lot of the times, players were pushing each other to say, no, you can do this run, you can do that run. We had to calm some people down at times. Somebody mentioned in the chat that they had to calm another streamer down because, they were getting really anxious about something. So, really the community help that was there to really kind of come up with good ideas, to talk about different comps that will work and talk about different strategies that work for them to be able to get through these nodes, I think was really nice to see throughout the Scourge event. So I guess to a certain extent, the Scourge event provided that avenue and that opportunity for us to be able to kind of bond a little bit closer together here when it comes to the Scourge event. So those are my thoughts. Those are the pros and the cons that I have. I'm curious to see what pros and cons you guys have as well for the Scourge event. I thought there were definitely some things that were good, but there was also a lot left to be desired. I think I would really love, one of the biggest things for me is if they went away from this leaderboard system and went to a point-based system where, hey, you shoot for this number because it's PvE content now. You shoot for this number, you get this number, you get XYZ amount of shards. I think I'll probably prefer and probably maybe feel a little bit more motivated to do some more runs if that's the case. I kind of took a very lackadaisical approach to it, just honestly because of the screen time. I just didn't really have as much time to do as many runs as I wanted to. But listen, want to know what your guys' thoughts are here. If you like the video, don't forget to like. Don't forget to subscribe if you haven't done so already. Hit the notification bell as well so that you will know when my videos do go live. Check out the links that are down below. My Twitch link, that's where I do stream Marvel Strike Force content on a weekly basis. Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays. Friday nights, we do roster roast, so come check those out as well. Check out the Discord, the Patreon link, which is another way for you to support the channel. But listen, appreciate you guys watching the video. Until next time, really curious to hear what you guys think some pros and cons are. Maybe something that I left off this list here, guys. And want to know what you think about the pros and cons that I put on this list as well. But listen, appreciate you guys watching the video. Until next time, y'all be blessed. Y'all be safe. Deuces. All right. That was pretty good. Pretty good. Pros and cons. Scourge. Until next time. Next on Marvel Strike Force